I'm Anthony Furey, filling in for Brian Lilly. I thought we could use today's opening to talk more about the U.S. election, but I mean, let's be honest, that's a tired subject. We've been talking about it for like 2 years. Instead, I don't know, let's go back to primary school and just do some basic math. That's always fun, right? Right? Okay, don't change the dial here. I'm going to meet you in the middle. Here's what we're going to do. Let's merge basic math with the U.S. election, because I got to tell you, I get the impression that some of the voters, they could have done with a little remedial education. Now, I predicted a smidge of a win by Mitt Romney. People want me to eat crow, but half of my rationale was because I knew the Hope He Changed crowd that came out in 08. You know, those people who were out in the streets crying about it, that they wouldn't come out this time around. Well, I was right. Obama got 10 million less votes this time. But Romney got less votes this time than McCain did back then too. So while the spread shrunk from 10 million votes to 3 million, clearly didn't make the cut. But the other half of my prediction was that moderates, well, they'd just be more amenable to basic math. Now, if you're a regular viewer, you know I'm a libertarian-minded guy. I couldn't care less about Republican social angles. In fact, hey, I'm glad less Americans are now being denied their liberties to get on with their gay marriage, their marijuana, whatever they want to do, so long as they're not violating other people's rights. No. I really care about small government and the fiscal issues. I care about not bankrupting the U.S. government, which, you know, wouldn't be so good for trade in Canada, the fact China holds U.S. bonds, the fact Americans kind of need to have food and shelter. So here's that remedial math lesson. Our U.S. debt now stands around $16 trillion, and they're set to add about $1 trillion a year. Now, we can argue about just how many of those trillion are George Bush's and how many Obama is directly responsible for, yada, 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 but that doesn't change the fact that, look, folks, it exists. And you're kind of going to want to do something about it sooner than later. All right, what can we do? We can raise taxes. That's right. I mean, isn't that the whole 1% narrative, the pay your fair share stuff? I mean, why, after all, is Warren Buffett's secretary paying greater percentage to the government than Warren Buffett himself? Oh, okay, no. Let's forget raising taxes for now. Let's do a thought experiment and let's put on our socialist silly suits and just go whole hog. Let's seize the assets of all U.S. millionaires and billionaires combined. And I don't mean a 100% tax on current incomes. I'm talking full asset seizure, full on Chairman Mao, whatever they do. Okay, well, we did the math, and that would bring in a one-time payment of about, ta-da, $12 trillion. And the debt is $16 trillion. The balance so clearly doesn't add up that even when Sammy the Sun News dog knew something was wrong, it was obvious to him, and he doesn't even have thumbs to use his calculator. The U.S., it would still be in debt for $4 trillion, still racking up another trillion a year. But now there's no more rich people to tax anymore. And currently proposed tax increases, well, they're obviously only going to bring in a small fraction of that. So when we hear people say, why can't those damn fiscal conservative Tea Party nuts just learn to compromise? You know, when it comes to raising the debt ceiling, dealing with the fiscal cliff? Well, I think it's because they've done the remedial math. I think it's because they're resistant to the self-destruction of the United States. By all means, let's have a serious conversation about taxing capital gains at regular income levels for people who work at hedge funds. Fine. Sure, raise it a few notches for this guy or that girl if it meets your definition of fairness. Tinker away all you want. But no one out there should be living in the fantasy land alternate reality that says all of America's problems are just little revenue problems. That's simply not the case. Whether it's entitlement spending, green energy, wishful thinking programs, or rotten corporate cronyism, the problem is mostly a big government thing. It's a fact all Americans are going to have to come to terms with to avoid disaster. And that's the byline. All right, I'm now joined with a special guest. I think he's the president of the Obama Fan Club Canada chapter. I might be mistaken. Sun News' own host, Ezra Levant. Was I right? I got confused. Was that correct?
Oh, man, I'm still crying and eating crow from my prediction that Romney would have a big win. Crow, as I like to say, seasoned with the salt of my own tears.
You and me both. But do you think there's any truth to what I was saying? That my prediction was partially based on the fact that, hey, moderates, they're going to do the math. They're just going to see that 1 + 1 doesn't equal 5. Was I wrong? Was I wrong to think that way?
No, well, I thought the same thing. I thought, listen, you've got a president who's presided over the worst economic 4 years since the Great Depression, unemployment 8%, $16 trillion debt, credit downgrades, joblessness rampant. But no, I guess America loves it. Here's where I got wrong. I thought Americans would think that being a socialist and big spending, more entitlements were bad. I think they're saying we love that. I think it's to the point where the takers outnumber the makers. I mean, look at how close it was, 50% to 48%. As Andrew Coyne pointed out in the paper yesterday, if only 300,000 votes had moved in 4 states, Ohio, Virginia, Florida, and I think Colorado was the other, Romney would have had it. So it wasn't massive, the majority, but enough Americans like being on food stamps, on welfare, better than they like to work and take a risk, that they voted for more of the same, please.
Now, Ezra, I mean, there's a similar. What you said was said by Mitt Romney in this scandalous video, this villainous video that got out when he was meeting with all those masters of capitalism, and he said the great sin that 47% of Americans are in with their entitlement cultures. Now, when he got called out on it, he kind of backed away a little bit, distances himself from it. But wasn't he just vindicated in that comment?
Yeah, I mean, listen, here's the number that should terrify you. 43 million Americans are on food stamps. Food stamps, we don't have them in Canada. It's like welfare checks that you take to the grocery to buy your food. It's actually a smarter way to do it than a food bank because you're taking advantage of the grocery store's infrastructure. But that should be something that people are a little bit squeamish about doing. I don't think that Americans anymore, or too many of them, are shy or embarrassed about food stamps. They say, hey, free stuff. I don't know if you saw that video of that woman in Ohio talking about her Obama phone and how everyone poor in Ohio was getting a free cell phone from Obama. If you can pay off on other people, you know the old saying, the government that robs Peter to pay Paul can always count on the electoral support of Paul. You know, I just didn't think that America was built on this kind of jealousy and envy anymore, but maybe times are so tough, people say, look, I can't make it on my own. Maybe I need a new dad like Obama. You know, so many students, for example, failure to launch. They're not leaving home to find jobs. The number of people in their 20s moving back in with their parents is shockingly high. We have a whole generation of people that have not gone out into the world of work. And I don't think they mind much because Obama's making it as comfy as possible for them.
Oh, leave me alone. I landed back on my feet after the second time back at home. I'm paying for my own bills now. Okay, but some people are going to watch this and say, oh, you guys are just worried about your own pocketbooks or the pocketbooks of guys who do well in the U.S. But, I mean, isn't there a strong case to be said for the moral case for people not to be on food stamps? That essentially a government that wants people to be sucking at the teat for their entire life is depriving people of their fundamental liberties to fulfill their ambitions, to live a prosperous life in a democratic society.
Sure. I mean, the moral case for self-reliance and personal responsibility, and for the government not to put a moral hazard out there. Hey, people, free stuff. I mean, there is a moral case to say, look, we shouldn't make not working so rewarding that it's actually more attractive to people than to work. But forget about the morality, just in terms of surely what works. I mean, sacking millionaires, tormenting billionaires, it's great for your class warfare campaign stump speech, but a billionaire like the late Steve Jobs, he actually built a company worth $500 billion, employs tens of thousands of people, and has made all our lives better. My point is, you can only demonize wealthy people so long before they say, forget about it, I'm retiring, or I'm moving to another jurisdiction, or you know what, maybe I'll keep my company I have now, but I won't expand it. I saw a terrifying interview with Steve Wynn, the great Vegas impresario. He's building casinos, hiring tens of thousands of people in Macau, China. He won't put another dime into Vegas other than to keep his current properties because he's worried about Obamacare and what they're going to do to him. That's the thing, is you can demonize wealthy guys. And boy, it feels good because I hate the rich too and they didn't deserve it. You can do that, but as you point out, you know, you take out the rich guys, who's going to build stuff, invest stuff, hire stuff? Obama doesn't have any money himself. He can only tax it from those who do. And you do that for a certain point in time and they just stop hiring anymore.
Ezra, that's a scary forecast for the years ahead. Thank you for joining us. As always, everyone tune into The Source on Sun News Network. Google the phrase moral case for free enterprise, folks. There's a book by Arthur C. Brooks. You really want to check it out? Send me your thoughts on this segment. It's anthony.furey@sunmedia.ca.